One of the most common ways in which Asmongold tries to present his perspective as a common sense opinion is by claiming that this is what the working class wants and making it seem as though he is not an out-of-touch multimillionaire just because he doesn't fucking shower. Many people actually don't understand that Asmongold is even more out of touch than the likes of someone like QTCinderella or even someone like myself by virtue of us going outside and also regularly showering. But because Asmongold does not shower and lives in a fucking moldy-ass, stinky-ass house, a lot of people tune in and go, oh my God, he's just like Diogenes. He is my fucking filthy philosopher. He believes the things that I believe, so he must be right. Last version of this that I wanted to show you is what Asmongold does, right? Asmongold goes off on QTCinderella. QTCinderella came out and made a statement saying that she was fundraising, or she was paying for stickers in her own Discord server that she was going to give out for free to people in her Discord server after paying an artist that was fundraising for families impacted by ICE. And of course, the Roach King did what the Roach King has been doing over and over again, but to a much lesser degree, because the impact that he has is going to fucking soften, okay? Why do libs call you the Asmongold of the left? Because they're fucking stupid. As an ex-apolitical centrist, rad libs do a good job of making oneself go all out and self-destruct to destroy the rad libs. That's it. The reason why they do that is because they want to say, oh, Hasan is also just as silly as this guy Asmongold. They want to flatten the commentary. They want to flatten the ideology. They want to say these two things are extreme on both sides. But if they were to say, hey, the guy actually saying that everyone deserves healthcare and the guy actually saying everyone deserves an ICE agent to go to their house and fucking ask them their papers are actually the same, most people will look at you and go, I don't think those two things are the same at all, as a matter of fact. I think you're out of your fucking mind. So instead of saying that, they go, well, they're both Twitch streamers. It's yet another way to not address the talking points that I'm engaging in, not address the ideology, not address my motivation, but instead, or even my background necessarily, but instead to try to flatten it all, to maintain an ultimate enlightened centrist position at a time when most people would consider that to be reductive, silly, and unproductive in general. They would say, hey, I don't really think that this is the case. In any case, we're talking about pressure. We're talking about social pressure and how social pressure plays a big role in silencing opposing viewpoints. Asmongold has a very large audience that will intensely come after you when he directs that attention, that negative attention, your way. Okay? He also doesn't make the best arguments in general. But like I said, Cutie wanted to do something nice and basically, position herself as being openly anti-ICE at a time when I think a lot of people are going to slowly but surely, because of people like QTCinderella as well as others, okay, will feel a sense of comfort in the crowd and will be able to openly say, I don't fuck with ICE. I think this is unacceptable, and I'm not afraid to say it. And better yet, I'm not even afraid to go out and protest in the streets. Okay, why did Ai Weiwei just follow me on Twitter? Maybe because you followed him? What's his Twitter? I'm going to follow him. He follows 20,000 people. Anyway.
Things that I don't feel comfortable not saying anything about.
I gotta pee.
That's not true. You just think that there's a consensus about this, so you want to talk about it and capitalize on it by virtue signaling. No, you talk about it whenever it's convenient and there's not a lot of backlash for it. That's what's really going on. If you want to lead change with kindness, you should be assisting ICE, helping remove illegal alien criminals, predators, pedophiles, and rapists from the country. If you want to help them and you want to make things better, you should be trying to lobby the people that are in these states instead of using these different random leftists as shock troopers and throwing them out as cannon fodder to have them be psychotic animals and basically end up getting shot. If you want to help, you have to make sure that those people aren't doing that. You're not helping them by doing this.
Actually, sign up and get a free.
I want to let you guys know that this is yet another rich person in entertainment that is completely insulated from the consequences of illegal immigration or any sort of behavior that now wants to basically overrule the results of an election because it's socially convenient or socially, I guess trendy to do so. That's what's going on here. Now, does she live in a neighborhood with illegal aliens? Of course not. She probably lives in a gated community.
So I think
It's so horrible that the election happened and people voted to elect Donald Trump to remove illegal aid.
In the past, okay, couple things that I want to mention. First and foremost, he immediately comes out of the gate swinging and saying, oh, it's a convenient time for her to say this, while in the process of making it very inconvenient for her to say this, right? Because when you say, oh, this is just simply a grift, right? And then you punish them, or even the fact that you mention that it is a grift and it's not a sincerely held belief at all, you're doing that to punish this person, okay? So you're immediately attacking this person. And as a massive content creator on this platform, not only do I personally think this is a projection, this is basically his own personal view about politics in general, very cynical worldview overall, but you're also saying it so that people actually punish people for coming out and dissenting, right? You're engaging in I guess like a self-crit session, you know? Cultural revolution style. You got the Maoist Red Guards. But instead of finding some sort of like ideological purity around Mao Zedong thought, it's as Asmongoldian thought, which is whatever the fuck Donald Trump says is good. That you unconditionally deep throat. Whatever the fuck our societal elites, pedophilic societal elites say is good. Right? Hey, bro, you always talk about Asmon. Oh my God. This is another thing that Asmongold's puppets do with regular frequency as well. This is not about Asmongold, but more so about a broader conversation that we're having. I'm giving you different versions in American ideology, in American politics, different versions of the same kind of stigmatization that takes place to stop people from speaking out. I'm also defending my podcast co-host and friend from attacks. If you have an issue with that, you can take it up with Asmongold. If you don't want me to talk about Asmongold, tell Asmongold to shut the fuck up and go back to playing video games, okay? Or go back to covering titties in video games. I don't know what he was talking about beforehand, but if you don't counter Asmon, idiot points, no one will, because his community scares smaller creators. Yes, that's what it is. And that's how, this is the point. The point I'm making is the moment that you bring up Asmongold in your stream, his fucking cockroaches come in and start saying, shut the fuck up. Why are you talking about Asmongold? Or a number of different heinous things. The reason why you don't really hear heinous things any longer in this chat whenever I cover Asmongold is because we usually purge them. Back in the day, whenever I covered anything that Asmongold was saying, oftentimes in defense of myself, because he still to this day regularly covers me. So does your community, to be fair. This is Cope. 100%. 100% Cope. Especially considering that I have this kind of shit, okay, in my community. When Asmongold covers me every single day, people celebrate that. They demand it. They're like, please talk about Hasan. Hasan is such a fucking idiot. Talk about the latest thing that Hasan did. When I cover Asmongold, a lot of people come in here and think, well, I'm high and mighty. I'm actually much better than you for not knowing who Asmongold is, regardless of the size that he has on this platform and regardless of what he is presenting. This is not about Asmongold. This is about how social stigma plays a role in silencing political dissent.
Better. You should be trying to lobby the people that are in these states instead of using these different random leftists as shock troopers and throwing them out as cannon fodder to have them be psychotic animals and basically end up getting shot.
Yeah, this is the real working class position. So anyway, Asmongold goes off on QTCinderella after she spoke out against ICE. In a different time, I would say, this kind of fucking rhetoric would go unchecked and it would cause people to shut the fuck up. Because other people would see QTCinderella come out and then get fucking punished socially by a much larger content creator with an audience that is willing to go out and tell them to shut the fuck up, to think twice before they say something, no matter how they feel, no matter if they have anger and resentment in their hearts for what this administration is doing. This is how you get people to shut the fuck up, by doing exactly this. times are changing. Times are changing now because people that push back on this, their voices are even louder. Okay? I need you to understand. I'm going to address the talking points as well. Okay? One of the most common ways in which Asmongold tries to present his perspective as a common sense opinion is by claiming that this is what the working class wants and making it seem as though he is not an out-of-touch multimillionaire just because he doesn't fucking shower. Many people actually don't understand that Asmongold is even more out of touch than the likes of someone like QTCinderella or even someone like myself by virtue of us going outside and also regularly showering. But because Asmongold does not shower and lives in a fucking moldy-ass, stinky-ass house, a lot of people tune in and go, oh my God, he's just like Diogenes. He is my fucking filthy philosopher. He believes the things that I believe, so he must be right. Meanwhile, he is a fucking multimillionaire grifting off of your stupidity by telling you that Donald Trump is fucking awesome. Yeah, based. Everything is common sense. Deluding you into thinking that the perspective that he is consistently reinforcing is actually commonly shared by many others, causing you to feel more isolated in the real world because he's lying to you. If you're on the internet and you spend most of your time on maybe certain subreddits or on Twitter, you are going to be presented with a false reality that the average person is totally on board with what is going on. This is very dangerous. This is why I always try to explain to you that you must go outside of your own echo chambers, okay? And we try to do that to the best of our ability here at the HasanAbi broadcast with regular frequency. And I oftentimes yell at the dumb fucks that tell me, why are you covering Fox News? Why are you covering Trump? Why are you platforming Trump? I yell at them all the time because you have to diversify your media diet and you have to have a better understanding of what other people are thinking and what other people are saying, okay? I cover a litany of different perspectives on this broadcast, okay? From an uncompromising moral position that I've yet to stray away from. And I will continue to do so. And I am telling you, the tide is shifting, okay? The tide is shifting already. Now people actually have had enough. Now people are actually less afraid to come out and speak. And you guys in this community play a role in that as well. And just like people like QTCinderella play a role in this as well. When they come out and they say something and they get yelled at by the likes of Asmongold, but then other people come to her defense and yell at Asmongold, people then realize, oh wait, I'm not alone. I'm not alone with my feelings. This is the reason why I was able to grow as a content creator initially, because so many people would tune in and go, holy fuck, I live in a goddamn red state and I didn't realize people think the way you do. I thought I was alone. I thought no one else around me felt this way. Okay? And there are many right-wingers who also look for that. Okay? And that's how they arrive at someone like Asmongold, where they go, oh my God, finally someone is actually saying the things I'm thinking, saying the quiet part out loud. Okay? That's it. That's all this is. The reality of the matter is, however, the majority opinion has shifted dramatically away from the hands of the incompetent administration and all the reactionary policies that they are representing because people are seeing the impact of those policies. Chatters may not have believed the tide was going to shift after October 7th, but we watched American sentiment nearly invert completely over 2 years of genocide in Gaza. Regarding ICE, the shift will happen much faster because it's happening here. Exactly. The shift has already happened. Americans went from 66% saying mass deportation now and voting for the mass deportation president to win over the, less deportation, but still many deportations presidential candidate Kamala Harris, to going abolish ICE in a matter of a year, less than 1 year into Donald Trump's term. Donald Trump's first term has not, Donald Trump's second term, the first year has not even ended yet. Okay, we got 4 more days for the 365 days to complete. And it took 1 year, but we are now here. The majority position is now to demand to abolish ICE once again. And it's only going to get worse from here on out. It's not like the economy is going to get fixed. It's not like people are going to magically experience prosperity. People are more and more frustrated every single day, and Trump's base is fucking hemorrhaging, okay? And a lot of these people do not actually care about that. A lot of these people don't actually have the broad awareness to understand that. I'm sorry, Asmongold is not a very intelligent person. He's not as stupid as the way he presents himself. He is definitely very cynical. He is very sinister in his commentary, but he's ultimately not that smart because he doesn't have a lot of experience in the realm of political commentary. He's a simple grifter, simply saying Trump is good, Trump is based over and over again because he realized that, you know, there is an audience for it. There is a market for it. Okay. And because of that, he doesn't realize that the walls are closing in. One of the first instances where he realized that the walls are closing in was this past week when he actually came out and said, yeah, based, when talking about a 37-year-old woman, Renee Good, who was a good woman, okay, a good American, a patriotic American who was defending her neighbors, who was shot in the middle of a fucking street in Minneapolis. He said that was based. He said, fuck around and find out. And a lot of people realized that this is the kind of heinous shit that he was trafficking in, okay? And they started pushing back. And as soon as he experienced even a fraction of the scrutiny, enmity, animosity that he has brought about to others with his audience, he decided, oh, maybe I won't talk about politics as much. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. But one thing he does not realize is that he doesn't know how to pivot, okay? One thing he does not realize is that the Trump train is not going to keep cooking. It's not going to keep going. The Trump train is already off the rails. You still think it is on the rails. You still think it's going to arrive at this destination. It's not. Okay? The tide shift is already here. And instances like this and pushing back on large content creators such as Asmongold for trafficking in not only conspiracy but also heinous, toxic, repulsive propaganda that consistently defends the Republican administration, no matter how pedophilic it gets, no matter how pro-Israel it gets, is going to sour people from watching him. And the only way that a lot of people who, unfortunately for us, experience politics as all vibes and nothing else, utterly devoid of policy impact, utterly devoid of ideological conditioning, will eventually realize the vibes are kind of stinky on that side of politics, and they'll slowly but surely find themselves on our side once again. But it is always pertinent on someone like myself and many others with a platform to properly educate people, to give them a proper political education so they do not stray away from empathy-first politics, from good policies that they demand in an uncompromising manner, and not just go back to the other side when the vibes shift once again. That's it. That's it. Yeah, again, he's shit talking the clip, but that you're talking about right now from a mile away. He could only watch people in 3-second increments just so he can gather more thoughts since he can't argue against their point.
Leftists as shock troopers and throwing them out as cannon fodder to have them be psychotic animals and basically end up getting shot. If you want to help,
he's talking about this right now and calling you a panderer for defending QT. Yeah, no, that's what I'm doing. I'm pandering. No, I'm celebrating, just like when he celebrates Rev Says Dezu or whatever the fuck that lolly account is, that lolly VTuber, when he says things that are seemingly on his ideological side, okay? I'm celebrating a content creator coming out and actually saying openly that they are against ICE. At a time like this one, it is necessary, it is pertinent on all people with a platform, all people with influence to come out and fucking say that this is unacceptable, this is wrong, okay? I'm sick and tired of the environment of silence that was created by right-wingers who were very loud and very proud to show everyone how fucking toxic they were, okay? To show everyone how they love all of these vices, okay? Vice signaling over and over and over again, okay? It's done. It's done. It's here. That tide shift is here, okay? And there will be more and more people that come out and say, Asmongold, shut the fuck up. Go take a shower. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Why would you get so bent out of shape on something like this?
You have to make sure that those people aren't doing that. You're not helping them by doing this.
Actually sign up and get a free.
I want to let you guys know that this is yet another rich person in entertainment that is completely insulated from the consequences of illegal immigration or any sort of behavior that now wants to basically overrule the results of an election.
Also, the other thing that his fans always do is like, lol, you're talking about him, because they want his positions to go uncontested. And because they can't actually argue against whatever I'm presenting here, they go, oh, lol, of course you're talking about it. Lol, I just trolled you and I derailed the conversation. I won, right? This is pathetic. They don't want his opinion to go contested. They want his opinion to run uncontested, right? That's it. They're not in it for any kind of real purpose. That's why they automatically would go, oh, well, he has more viewers than you. Well, one day he will have less viewers than me. What will you say then? You know, eventually you're going to have to argue on the points. Maybe today is not that day for you, but eventually you are going to have to argue on the points. Or you'll probably do what I expect many in Asmongold's community and audience to do, which is quietly move to the other side and act as though you were there all along. That's usually what people do, especially because they're anonymous. But don't worry. We're open-minded here. At least I am open-minded here. I'll welcome you with open arms as long as you're out there doing the right thing.
Because it's socially convenient or socially, I guess trendy to do so. That's what's going on here. Now, does she live in a neighborhood with illegal aliens?
She lives in Los Angeles, California, my friend. Is Los Angeles, California an immigrant-riddled shithole? Or is it utterly devoid of illegal immigrants? QTCinderella lives in Los Angeles, California. The notion that there are no undocumented immigrants living in her neighborhood or anywhere in Los Angeles, California is very fucking stupid. Okay? As a matter of fact, Los Angeles, California is proof that, you know, the immigration status of a person does not actually dictate anything, and people can live harmoniously alongside one another, regardless of where their starting position was. Very stupid for him to make this argument.
Of course not. She probably lives in a gated community.
So I think
it's so horrible that the election happened and people voted to elect Donald Trump to remove illegal aliens, but
who gets to avoid other people more, you think? A person who, once again, he doesn't even know whether she lives in a gated community or not. She doesn't, you know? But once again, you don't go outside. You are infinitely more out of touch with the average person. You are infinitely more out of touch with the average person, and you're even wealthier than QTCinderella. You have a larger platform than QTCinderella. You're much wealthier than QTCinderella. You are a multi-millionaire. Just because you don't shower and present yourself as though you have an ascetic lifestyle, you present yourself as having an ascetic lifestyle does not mean that you actually are in touch with the common person. A person that goes outside is infinitely more in touch with the common person than a multimillionaire who doesn't go outside ever. Okay? Yeah, it's not necessarily an ascetic lifestyle, but maybe an acidic lifestyle, as this chatter is saying as well. But, you know, that's neither here nor there.
Hey, you know, we shouldn't listen to the elections. We should listen to you. Yeah, you know, like, hey.
The CEO of multiple companies, you know, business owner, never leaves his home, multimillionaire, talking about how other people are out of touch for what? For saying their political positions? Argue against the points, Asmongold. Argue against the points instead of trying to lean into the popularity of Donald Trump, especially at a time when Donald Trump is objectively unpopular. Stop diluting your audience. Donald Trump is no longer popular. And a big part of the reason why he's no longer popular is because he won the election with lies. Lies such as, we are going to deport undocumented migrants because they're all criminals. That was a lie to begin with. And that this is going to yield tremendous economic prosperity. Another lie. He is trying to deport as many undocumented migrants as he possibly can, many of which are not criminals at all, as a matter of fact, or have like very little, very small violations that are again, paperwork problems in general, okay? And he's doing this in an incredibly cruel and incredibly ruthless manner, so much so that has led to his unpopularity. He's unpopular on the issue of immigration, an issue that he ran on and won on. Okay, so people are directly saying, no, what you're doing here is bad, okay? And not only that, but he's also unpopular because he hasn't fixed the economy. As a matter of fact, the economy is horrible for working class individuals. You wouldn't know that, though, because you're an out-of-touch multimillionaire. Just because you sit in a moldy home does not mean that you are not an out-of-touch multimillionaire who is grifting and deluding people into thinking that things are actually good and Donald Trump is actually dominating. What is this argument that everyone has to agree with what the result of the last election was? I hear it from hogs all the time, but what is the point? I don't see them loving Joe Biden when he was elected. Exactly. It's fucking stupid. It's not a real argument at all. You only present that if you are utterly devoid of any sort of real arguments. Okay? You don't have any real arguments, so you just keep going, well, we won the election. Get wrecked, libtard. That's all you have. Okay? His fans are suffering in silence, feeling powerless because they want Asmongold to debate you, but he will never do it out of fear of looking ridiculous, which is exactly what would happen. I know. If you are an Asmongold fan in this community that is watching right now to talk about, to talk shit, you came in here to be like, watching Asmongold again, take up your issues with Asmongold, who talks about me, but rarely ever talks to me. Has a very hard time talking to me, as a matter of fact. I'm not the one who is running away from a conversation. I've actually been very charitable and very kind to Asmongold every single time we have had conversations. He just doesn't want to fold in front of someone else who actually knows what they're talking about. And that's precisely the reason why he avoids having a conversation with me, but won't avoid consistently farming drama. Even though this is not even about drama, this is about policy disagreements, policy differences. If you cannot test your mettle in the marketplace of ideas, maybe you're not so confident in your ideas at all.
Fuck democracy. It doesn't matter what people vote on. No, this is just the wrong thing to do anyway. I don't think so. This is another, as I said, it's another privileged white girl that lives in a gated community, totally insulated from the consequences of any degree of negative effect of illegal migration or any other problem that's a secondary effect of that. You never have to worry about having food stamps be delayed because of this or having food stamps be cut because...
Once again, the commoner position here for Asmongold, okay, is the idea that ICE is actually good because it's actually, removing migrants. And for the record, QTCinderella was on food stamps. Asmongold was on food stamps as well, which is something that he brings up quite frequently. But so was QTCinderella. QTCinderella grew up very, very poor. Perhaps even more poor than Asmongold was, let's be real. This is something that she has talked about on the Fear End podcast. This is something she talks about on her own stream. Asmongold is infinitely more disconnected from reality because he's out of touch. He's a multimillionaire who never leaves his home. Just want to point that out one more time. When he tries to present this argument as though he is taking on the commoner position, the common working class position here, by presenting her as a privileged white girl living in a gated community, he's actually trying to redirect the attention away from himself. Because if his audience was constantly holding him to account to be like, well, aren't you a multimillionaire yourself and you don't really leave your house, all of a sudden the mirage would shift. People would start realizing, okay, yeah, sure, you wear the same white t-shirt all the time. Maybe that's just marketing, right? Unfortunately for all of us, a lot of people do fall for that marketing, which is precisely the reason why a lot of people get mad at me and they say, Hasan, well, you present yourself as an incredibly wealthy person. You wear high fashion clothes and you have a nice car, you have a nice home, over and over again, as though this has anything to do with the arguments that I'm presenting, as though this has anything to do with, as though this is at odds with my worldview in any shape or form, right? It does not. But it's an easy, boom, one shot that causes people to go, I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. Okay? He said, y'all are just saying it when it's popular. You in 2018 saying abolish ICE with a video calling them Gestapo. Yes, I've been there. I've been there for years. This is nothing new.
First they came for the communists. And
This is in February 12, 2018, when I was at the Young Turks, when I called ICE Gestapo. Okay? I've been there. I've been there consistently and have never shied away from this position, no matter how quote-unquote unpopular it has seemingly gotten, okay? The real reason why Asmongold is lashing out like this is because he realized that his position is inevitably going to become unpopular because he's tied himself to the Trump train, okay? And now that the Trump train is actually off the rails, he's also off the rails. This is why I get somewhat frustrated when people try to be like, well, you're just like Asmongold. You don't know anything. It's like, bitch, I've been doing this for many, many years, okay? Just because you weren't aware of it doesn't mean that I wasn't there.
There's a bunch of people that are dependent on it. You don't have any level and any understanding of this at all because you're rich. You're totally rich. You're totally disconnected from the average person. We call it virtue signaling. It is. It's totally optics driven. It's
Once again, nothing to say about the argument. Nothing to say that, fuck ICE is a totally reasonable and, dare I say, popular position, even though he did bring up that it's popular now. So he is literally admitting that it's a popular position now, and that's why he's lashing out, trying to make people shut the fuck up, trying to force them into silence by bullying them. It's not going to work. Okay? Especially because at the heart of this argument is the most in touch with the working class take is actually when you demand for white working class moms to get shot in the face by ICE. Okay? That's it. That's the in touch position. These people work way harder than you do. The people that are getting deported work way harder than you do. They are way more productive than you are. What the fuck do? You don't do anything. And neither do I, for the record. And I live with that shame every day, so I try to do my very best to at least engage in broad awareness initiatives and do fundraisers, work with community organizers, work with politicians, work with political campaigns. That's the reason why I do that. Go out to protests, speak at marches, the things that I do, partially, I do because I know that if I just sat around and just chirped, it's not enough. Meanwhile, that's all he does. All he does is chirp, and his heart is not even in it. If you can't actually argue against the positions being presented, you just attack the person. That's all this is. The argument that he's presenting is that ICE is good. Why is ICE good? Because it's deporting undocumented migrants. Why is this a good thing? Because undocumented migrants are stealing food stamps. None of this is true, okay? Undocumented migrants actually cannot take advantage of any social welfare in this country, okay? That's number one. And their impact on the economy is positive. It's not negative at all. Their crime is not a real crime. It's not a felony, no matter how hard these people lie and try to make it seem as though they're all bloodthirsty murderers. Undocumented migrants are a net positive on the economy. They put back more into taxpayer funds than they actually take out in the form of any sort of social safety nets because they don't have access to these social safety nets. These are things that we have talked about a million times over. And ultimately, what they are being violently deported for is simply a paperwork issue that could be solved just like that.
because of this, or having food stamps be cut because there's a bunch of people that are dependent on it. You don't have any
undocumented migrants are not actually taking food stamps from U.S. citizens, for the record. This is a lie. He is just lying. He has no evidence for this.
Totally disconnected from the average person. We call it virtue signaling.
The average person is infinitely closer to an undocumented migrant. As a matter of fact, probably encounters undocumented migrants with regular frequency at the places they go to, whether they be businesses they frequent or even, work alongside them at the regular job sites that they go to. Asmongold is actually an out-of-touch Twitch streamer who is a multi-millionaire who never leaves his home, and therefore he is completely oblivious to this reality. If anything, the federal government spending $75 billion in additional funds on ICE to go out and hire the most racist dumbasses with zero fucking training to go and harass random American citizens and undocumented neighbors alike is infinitely worse, and an infinitely worse pressure on the social safety nets than whatever hypothetical imagined fantasy Asmongold has about undocumented migrants stealing welfare, which is not a real thing at all. Okay. Well, why did the average person vote for Trump then? I don't know. If you don't like Joe Biden, ask yourself the question, why did the average person vote for Joe Biden? It's the same reason. Okay. Because they deluded themselves into thinking that Joe Biden would represent a change that they appreciate. Okay. Just like a lot of people deluded themselves into thinking Trump would be a positive change. They didn't like Kamala Harris. I'm very honest about this kind of stuff. If you've ever listened to me during the election cycle, you would have heard me say over and over again, Donald Trump is most likely going to win because Kamala Harris is actually doing a dog shit job at running a campaign and presenting herself as an out-of-touch elitist who is not in tune with the needs of the working class. This allows Donald Trump to, for example, present himself as an isolationist and a peace candidate. The reason why Donald Trump was able to lie about being the peace candidate, even though he was president for 4 years and he certainly wasn't the peace candidate then, was because the oppositional figure in the opposing party was anchored around continuing a genocide that a foreign country was doing with unlimited weapons and unlimited funding from us with our taxpayer dollars, right? With our taxpayer dollars. And also simultaneously saying that she is going to command the most lethal military in the world, the most lethal U.S. military that the U.S. military has ever seen, and hugging and kissing Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and winning their endorsements and parading around as though these guys had any constituency whatsoever. When you present yourself as the pro-war party, the other side is going to have a much easier time presenting themselves as the peace party, even if they are not going to do that. This is precisely the reason why a lot of voters for Donald Trump are experiencing buyer's remorse right now. Yes, but he specifically promised to get rid of the migrants, and that's why many voted for him. That's one promise he actually kept. Except if you were, once again, around here at any given moment throughout the election cycle, you would have heard me say Americans actually vote for things that they don't like all the time. One example that I used in the election cycle was abortion. Many right-wing Americans thought they wanted to ban abortion, and once abortion bans actually came through because the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, they realized, oh shit, we don't like this at all. We don't like this one bit. Okay? And that's precisely the reason why, even though the position of mass deportation was polling at around 66% in the lead up to the election, and Donald Trump was seen as a guy who was going to deal with this problem, is now deeply unpopular because of his anti-migrant policies. People who are pro-migrant, people who are the pro-migration position is at 75%, peaking at its highest approval rating right now. Donald Trump is underwater on his immigration policies, and people are very upset at the way things are going, even if they voted for it. I've met many people, even on stream, that have said, I'm Latino, I voted for Donald Trump because I thought he was going to actually deport the criminal migrants and not my family members. And he deported my family members, and I very quickly realized he was lying. Another reason as to why he was able to get away with this lie is because the Democratic Party that previously had committed to a firm opposition on the pro-migrant position completely dropped that this time around in this election cycle and said, no, actually, migrants do constitute a national security crisis. The Republicans are right on this, and we are going to be the competent figures that actually engage in deportations. That was wrong. And I said over and over again that leaning into the lies and conceding to the lies that the Republicans were creating in an effort to justify mass deportations is one of the worst things you could possibly do, because it makes you look like a hypocrite. It makes you look like a coward. It makes you look like you got caught in a lie. When ironically enough, they were the ones who were lying from the start. And once the policy positions become reality, people quickly realize that that is a lie. This is not insane framing at all. Or, oh, you're talking about the way that Republicans are framing this. Okay? Some Democrats' radical commitment to funding increasingly unpopular violence is out of touch with the public's trajectory and is politically naive. Concerning that these extremist figures are apparently leading the opposition to Trump, do Democrats want another 2024? A plurality of Americans want to abolish ICE, including Democrats, 77-12. Black voters, 62-18. Hispanic voters, 58-31. By the way, notice how black voters actually have a more negative opinion on ICE than Hispanic voters do. Just something to consider here. Moderates, 45-35, and 15% of Trump voters. And Democratic leadership is apparently offering to give ICE more money in exchange for a few reforms. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Insane. Let's finish this.
It is. It's totally optics driven. It's embarrassing. And honestly, I think that it's not surprising either. QTCinderella, especially after that crash out that she had with like, who was it? The KDB and Vanilla Mace. Whenever she looked bad for saying that she wasn't going to disown her father because her father disagreed because of her trans brother or something like this. Well, now she has to make up for that.
Again, utterly irrelevant point here. Not relevant at all, but it's signaling to like a irrelevant drama to once again disparage the person for actually standing in opposition to ICE. he has a disagreement on what QTCinderella is doing here, but he can't actually entertain the real argument because he doesn't, one, have the knowledge to entertain the actual argument and attack the argument itself and talk about why ICE is good. So he brings up a whole bunch of like fake bullshit saying, oh, well, ICE is actually doing a good job and people voted for it because like, you know, these criminal migrants are stealing welfare. Again, all bullshit. But most of the argument, if you noticed in this 3-minute video that I was looking at for like the last 25 to 35 minutes, is all conjecture. It's all utterly devoid of policy positions. There's no counterpoint. There's nothing at all. It's briefly he mentions why ICE is good, but most of it is just she's bad, white woman in a gated community. She fucking sucks. She's doing this because it's now, optically sound to do so. She's actually silly. She's stupid. She's out of touch. She's out of touch with the commoner perspective, the common working class perspective, all this stuff. You only engage in this kind of argumentation when you actually have no argument to have, okay? When you do not have a real argument, a valid position, when you cannot let your argument stand on its own virtues, okay? You just go, look at all the drama that she was in. Also, what did QTCinderella do to Asmongold? Literally nothing. She's just someone to bully, ridicule, and humiliate for him. That's it. That's it. He's just crashing out on people because they don't agree with the position that he has framed his entire, political career around, that ICE is good.
By doing this performative activism and pretending like this is such a horrible thing. The only level that QTCinderella has of interacting with illegal aliens is...
Yeah, also, this is the other thing. Exactly. He wants to make sure that other content creators that speak out know that he will attack them. He wants to punish creators that speak out against his worldview. He wants to create a hug box. And he has, to a certain degree. Why the fuck do you think he spent every goddamn waking moment shitting on me every single day for like the last 2 years? It's not just because he gets the numbers when he does stuff like that. It's also because he's creating a safe space for some of the most pathetic vice signaling losers. Okay? That's why no matter how big or small certain content creators are, he goes after them. Okay? He goes after them aggressively and maliciously, and his audience goes after them. He went after Connor as well. You can use the example as he's never shit on Charlie, although Charlie called out ICE in that video, and those with Asmongold's views are blind and stupid. Yeah, he's too much of a pussy to fucking go after Moist Critical because Moist Critical has an audience that is much larger than his audience. Moist Critical is actually a beloved content creator in the space. And he would never actually go after Moist Critical for expressing the same exact point of view. Moist also has financial ties with OTK and Asmongold. That's probably part of the problem as well for both parties involved, by the way, because it's not like Moist Critical is oblivious to Asmongold. He accused you of doing this. He said Hasan wants to create a reward structure for negative commentary against me. Ironic coming from him. Yeah, a guy who has basically been engaging in this negative commentary structure in an effort to, to boost himself in the algorithm over and over again for the past 2 years is now saying, I'm doing the same thing. Well, guess what, dude? Sucks to suck. And for the record, I will be honest with you. I do want there to be an incentive structure around people who are opposing not just Asmongold. I mean, I don't give a shit about Asmongold. If Asmongold started talking about World of Warcraft again or played video games every single day and maybe every now and then talked about titties and video games, I would not give a shit. He did that for years. He was a much larger content creator than me for years while he was doing that. And did I ever fucking criticize him? Did I ever complain? Did I ever mention Asmongold at all? No, of course not. Many people had no idea who the fuck Asmongold was in my community for that reason. The only reason why I want there to be an incentive structure around not just shitting on Asmongold, but just shitting on right-wing sentiment is because I hate right-wing sentiment. I abhor right-wing sentiment. I oppose right-wing sentiment. This is what I've done for the past decade plus. And if Asmongold wants to keep promoting right-wing values that I find to be repulsive, that I find to be toxic, that I find to be not hospitable, and make this space that I'm in a worse place overall, of course I'm going to oppose it. And I hope that other people will find courage in both my conviction and many others, and find courage in numbers to also oppose him.